Welcome to another Fast Tips video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I am your instructor, Richard Rost. Today's video is for my VBA students. We're going to learn about variable scope and visibility in Microsoft Access VBA. Today's question was posted in my forums by Sandra from Norfork, Arkansas. I almost said Norfolk, like Norfolk, Virginia. Norfork, Arkansas, one of my gold members. Sandra said, can I use dim_x as string on multiple buttons on one form, or does each button require a separate character? I've watched lots of videos, but I have not found one yet that answers this question. And this was posted in my forums under the 4 next loops video. And of course, right away, I love my moderators. Adam and Scott both jumped on it right away and gave her an answer. I do cover this in Access Developer Level 4. It's called Variable Scope. And to answer your question, Sandra, like they said, you can use the same variable name in different buttons because each button has its own local procedure level scope. And let's talk about the different kinds right now. Okay, so when dealing with variables, there's two things to keep in mind. There's scope and visibility. Scope is where a variable works, and visibility is who can see that variable. There's 3 types of scope. There's procedure level, which is inside a sub or a function, which is what you get when you create a button, and you've got code under that button, right? Then you've got form level, which works inside the single form, the form itself, also a report, but we're just going to call it form level because I do 99% of my programming in forms, but the same thing applies to reports as well. And then you've got database level, and these are variables that work over the entire database. Now, in addition to scope, you've also got visibility, okay? Private, that means that the variable is only visible inside its own scope. So inside that sub or function, inside that form, or inside that module. And public means it's global to the entire database. Everybody can see it, but you got to still call it properly by its proper name. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's talk about some prerequisites here. If you're scratching your head and you're like, what's all this stuff mean? If you've never done any VBA programming before, go watch this video. It's free. It's on my website. It's on my YouTube channel. It's about 20 minutes long. It'll walk you through all the basics of programming in VBA. After that, go watch my variables video. It'll teach you all about what variables are and how to use them. I also do talk a little bit about public and private variables here too, but we're going to go over them in more detail today. And finally, if you're interested, the video that Sandra was commenting on is my 4 next loops video that teaches you how to do a little like 1 to 10 kind of loop, right? X equals 1 to 10. Okay, this one's optional. Watch this one if you want to. Okay, so let's talk about the different variables and their scope. So we've got our main menu here, and I've got a couple of different buttons. Now, if you right-click and go to Build Event in any of these buttons, that's going to bring up the code builder, and you can see right here there's a private sub customer list button click. In other words, this is a procedure, right? A procedure is either a sub or a function. And any variables that you declare inside this procedure only have scope, only work inside this procedure. So for example, I could say dim_s as a string right here. Okay? And if I come up here and dim_s as a string again, those are 2 different s's, completely different. And this sub doesn't know anything about that sub. There's no way to get a hold of that information. It's private to the inside of this subroutine. And you can reuse the name. That's fine. So let's say in here, I'll say, let's get rid of the do command open form. Let's say s equals Rick. And then we'll message box s. And then in this one up top here, I'll say s equals Joe, message box s. All right, come back out here. Click on those buttons. All right, there's Rick, and there's Joe. And they don't know anything about each other. All right, they have limited scope. Now, the next level up of scope is going to be a form level variable. So, for example, come up here. I'm inside of a form module right now. Okay, this database doesn't have any actual database level modules. All right, there are none over there. But I'm inside of the form module. This is the module behind this form. You can always see it's right up here, form_main menu F, right? These are all form modules. And I usually turn this thing off in my classes because I seldom use it, but it's the Project Explorer right here. You can turn that on and off, okay? Now you can declare a variable out here if you want to, dim s as a string. That is now a form level module. Now you can't set the value of a form level module up here. All right, variables can only be set inside of procedures. So if I try to put in here s equals Alex, let's say, all right, it'll be there and you'll think it'll be working, but it's actually not going to work. And in fact, if you try to compile your database right now, you'll get an error message, invalid outside procedure. You can't do this outside of one of these subs or functions. And this is why it's a good idea to every now and then compile your database, because it'll catch stuff like this, right? You could type something in here and your database will work just fine. You can come back in here and you can click on buttons and you won't be, well, okay, they gave it to me that time. But sometimes you'll be working on your database and you won't even know that that's not running, okay? Especially if it's in a form that you don't use much. So we'll get rid of that there. Where can you set that guy's value? Well, anywhere you want to. Usually I'll do it in the form load event, right? You can come back out here. You can go to design view, open up the forms properties. Then there's the on load event and the on open event. They basically do the same thing. The only difference is on open can be canceled, right? There's a cancel option there, but you could put it right in here and you could say s equals Alex. Okay, but now here's the thing. I've got a couple local variables called s, and I've got this form level variable called s. Let's see what happens. Let's come back out here. Close this. Click on that. Oh, that still says Rick. And this one still says Joe. That's interesting. Let's go and let's change what this button does. Let's say in here I only want to message box s, but I'm not going to declare a local variable in here. All right, I'm not going to declare a procedure level variable. So this one should use the form variable, right? Let's try it and see. Close that and click, and there's Alex. Okay, so this shows you that the priority of scope actually goes backwards. Okay, the priority is you'll get procedure level variables take priority. All right, so if something is declared inside that sub, it's going to use that if you've got two variables with the same name. All right, if you declare a form level variable with the same name, it will work in any procedures that don't have that also as a variable name, right? And then beyond that, there's the database level. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Okay, so you can see we've got local variable in the procedure, right? Procedure level variable, form level variable. Those are declared up here at the top of a form. Okay. And then you can have database level variables, and those have to be put inside of a module. So we're going to create a module. All right. I like to save it right off the bat. Save. We'll just call this my global module, global mod. And in here, you can make variables too. All right. Let's do a dim s. Actually, we already have s in the form. Let's do a dim my name as a string. Okay. Let's save it. Debug, compile. Everybody's good so far. Okay, let's go back to our form here. Design view. Let's go back to this forms code. Now, when we set s as Alex, let's also set my name equals Sam. Okay, and then up here, let's message box s and a space and my name. Let's see those both. All right, let's see what happens here now. Okay, hold on. Variable not defined. What's not defined? My name equals Sam. Why is my name not defined? That's interesting. Well, back here, dim is essentially the same as saying this is a private variable. All right, there's private and public. Right, private and public. Now, if you use dim, by default, that gives you a private variable. So only that form or that module will see it. All right, you have to declare it as public if you want it to be global so that anybody can see it. Dim and private pretty much use the same thing. Okay, generally you use dim inside procedures, whereas private is usually used at the form or database level, usually. But they're pretty much interchangeable, okay? Now, you might also see the word global, and in fact, in a lot of my classes, I use global a lot because in the old days, right, the keyword was global. There was no such thing as a public variable. They added public a little while later, and they kept global around for backward compatibility. Okay, so if you see these terms, or if you hear me refer to a global variable, global and public is the same thing. Dim and private are pretty much the same thing. All right, so you don't get confused by the keywords. All right, so this thing here I got in my global module, if I just use dim, that means only other subs and functions in this module will see it. It's not visible to the outside world. Okay, so I have to come in here and change this to either global or preferred public. Now the rest of the database can see it. And if I compile, everything looks good. All right, and if I run my form, okay, there's Rick, and there's Alex and Sam. Okay, see that? That's where that was set. And the benefit of doing it like this is you can use this variable anywhere in the database now. All right, in your queries, in your forms, in your reports, whatever. So if you got a value that you want to bounce around, like it's good for storing like a username for the currently logged on user, or whatever other information you want to persist throughout the entire database without having to actually save it into a table. Now, there's one interesting thing about form level variables. Where are you? I had it in the main menu, right? Okay. So up here we got S as string, and this is a form level private variable. Okay? But you can make form level variables public too. So let's say you got dim x as along in here. Okay? Now remember, dim by itself is private, so only this form can use it. But we can change that to public. Now, anybody else can get a hold of that variable as long as the form is open. That's the kicker. Okay, it's got to be open. As soon as you close this form or report, that variable goes away. All right, so let's set it when the form opens. Let's set it to, right down here, we'll come here and say x equals 1701. Okay, so it's got a value. And now let's get it from another form. Let's open up the customer form. Oh, I got rid of the buttons to open up the customer form, didn't I? Let's go over here, customer form. Okay, and let's go in here and we'll just change this button here. Okay, now we know how to get information from another form, right? Right, how to get a value from an open form. Okay, this video deals with how to get a value from a forms field. All right, from a forms field. So, for example, if you want the first name field off the customer form, right? It's forms customer F first name, like that. Okay, but I don't want that. I want a variable. So what's the variable we want? It's on the main menu form and it's called X. All right, let's see if we can do that. Let's message box forms main menu F X. Let's see what happens here. Let's debug compile. Okay, hold on. Variable not. Oh, I got the S over here, so let's get rid of this guy. Remember, I had the form level S up here. All right, let's just get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. Come here. Goodbye. Save it. Okay, debug compile. Oh, I got another variable not defined here. Oh, there's my S again. Get rid of that. Okay, this is why a debug compile is important. You can find all these little things that have changed in your database. Okay, now I compile okay. Everything looks good. All right, let's close that, go back to the customer form, and let's click our button. Okay, TechHelp Free Template can't find the field X referred to in your expression. It can't find the field X. Let's debug that, the field X. All right, so that's obviously not a field. So what's wrong here? Well, you can't refer to a variable like you refer to a field. But it's one little change you just got to remember. Instead of referring it to the bang there, you just put a period there. That's it. Variables get treated like properties do. Okay, technically Access creates a property with that variable name. It's kind of weird, but that's just how you do it. Okay, but now I should be able to get that variable name. Now, there's another thing I'm going to teach you coming up right here. Let's click this now. All right, it's 0. Why is it 0? Well, it's 0 because whenever you get a compile error and the debugger kicks in, it clears all variable memory for all variables everywhere in the system, which sucks. I hate that. That's one of the reasons why it's good to use temp vars. And I laughed because the guys have been bugging me to make a video about temp vars for like a year now, and it's on the list. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I do cover temp vars in Access Developer 31, but yes, I'm going to be making a TechHelp video on it pretty soon here. Basically, temp vars are another kind of global variable. They persist over the entire database, and they survive a debug crash. So what you have to do in this particular case is, in order to get that X back, you got to reinitialize the form. So you got to close that form. This is one of the reasons why I start teaching people from a very early age. Whenever you do some programming work, shut down the form and restart it. It reinitializes all your variables. All right, so open that up. X should now be set to 1701. And if I open this guy up and hit the button, there's 1701. So you can read the public variable from this form. Okay, which now has a value. All right. But be careful if you do this, because I could come in here and put XYZ in there. Okay, it'll compile. And then when you come in here and try to run it, you just get application defined or object defined error. Because it's not a compile error, right? That's a good piece of software, or a good piece of code. It's just that when it runs, it's called a runtime error. All right, when it runs, it's going to try and find that variable and go, I got no idea what you're talking about. Okay, Access doesn't evaluate this kind of stuff at compile time. So be careful of your spelling. I still stand by my statement that 90% of problems come from people spelling things wrong. I get emails all the time from people that they send me an email, and in their question, they type in a paragraph explaining everything. In that paragraph alone, I can see 2 or 3 typos just from regular words they misspelled. And I'm like, okay, I can tell you right now, you got a typo somewhere. You're getting in a parameter value because you typed in something wrong. Spelling counts, people. It's not like English class, all right, where you just get points off. No, you spell stuff wrong in your code, it's just not going to work. The good part is when you get an error message, like variable not defined. The bad part is when you do it like a form field wrong and the code still runs, you just don't know it's not working. That's the sinister part. I got mail too. Oh, and I also want to point one thing out. While I was doing my research, whenever I do one of these videos, I've been doing this stuff for 30 years now, so I know variables and scopes and all that inside and out. But whenever I do a new video, I always take at least a half an hour and I Google that topic just to see what everybody else is out there saying, in case there's something maybe I missed, something new that's come up that I don't even know yet. And I found 2 or 3 different other websites that said you can't access the public variables of a form from another form. Yeah, you can. I just did it. Okay? So you got to be careful what sources you read out there, folks. And remember, when people post things in like message forums, they don't always know what they're talking about. So be careful who you listen to. All right? So let me show you an example of where a global variable is useful. For example, let's come down here and go to the global module. Let's make a variable. Let's call it public last customer ID as a long. We're going to store the last customer ID that was accessed in a public variable. So that way, if you're viewing through customers and you want to go back to the last person that you had accessed, it's like if you close the customer form, but you want to go back to that last customer, we'll make a button to open up the last customer, right? Okay, so now let's go to the customer form, okay, and let's go to the customer form on current event. All right, so we get rid of that load. Okay, so right in here, we're going to say last customer ID equals customer ID. All right, now last customer ID is defined in the global module, and this is a field on this form. And if you're ever curious, you can right click and go definition, and it'll show you where that's defined. See? Oh, okay, yeah, that's there. All right, doesn't do that for everything. Like I don't think you could do it for this. Yeah, see? If it's not a variable, it won't bring you to a field. But you can use it for things like this. All right, so now as you're going through your customer form, okay, if I go here, 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 here. All right, let's stop on Wesley Crusher, number 7. Let me close that. Okay, and let's make a button on this form that opens last customer. Open last customer. Oh, come here, last customer. All right, right click, build event, do command, open form, customer F, comma, 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 where customer ID equals last customer ID. Save it, compile. Oh, variable not defined. Okay, all right. I got rid of my name, didn't I? Let's get rid of all this stuff we don't need out of here. Get rid of this X. Let's get rid of all this stuff. Okay, all right, we're good. Now I got a compile error, so that's not gonna. It's gonna clear that memory variable. So if I do this now, we're gonna get. Oh, it still went back to Wesley Crusher. It didn't clear it. Okay, it doesn't always clear things. Most of the time it does. All right, but if I go through stuff, invalid use of null, debug, what happened? Last customer ID equals, oh, that's interesting. Okay, can't assign it to null, right? Let's come in here and we'll say, whoops, we'll say if is null customer ID, then exit stub. And save it and come back out here. All right, let's go there. Let's close this, come back into the customer form, and I'll browse around a bit, do this, do this, do this. Let's stop on Tasha Yar this time, and then open last customer. There you go. Okay. Microsoft actually has a pretty good page on their website expanding on the scope and visibility with some different examples in here. I mean, it's pretty much everything I just told you. So check that out if you want. As I mentioned earlier, I do cover scope and variables and a lot more stuff in my Access Developer Level 4 class. It's on my website. I'll put a link to this and everything else I mentioned in the description down below the video. You can click on those links and you can come on and visit. And yeah, that'd be cool. So that is your fast tips for today. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time. How do you become a member? Click on the join button below the video. After you click the join button, you'll see a list of all the different membership levels that are available, each with its own special perks. Silver members and up will get access to all of my extended cut tech help videos, one free beginner class each month, and more. Gold members get access to download all of the sample databases that I build in my tech help videos, plus my code vault, where I keep tons of different functions that I use. You'll also get a higher priority if you decide to submit any tech help questions to me, and you'll get one free expert class each month after you've finished the beginner series. Platinum members get all the previous perks, plus even higher priority for tech help questions, access to all of my full beginner courses for every subject, and one free developer class each month after you finish the expert classes. These are the full-length courses found on my website, not just for Access, too. I also teach Word, Excel, Visual Basic, and lots more. You can now become a Diamond sponsor and have your name or company name listed on a sponsors page that will be shown in each video as long as you're a sponsor. You'll get a shout-out in the video and a link to your website or product in the text below the video and on my website. But don't worry, these free tech help videos are going to keep coming. As long as you keep watching them, I'll keep making more, and they'll always be free. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and post any comments you may have. I do try to read and answer all of them as soon as I can. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, which is completely free, and click on the bell icon to select all to receive notifications when new videos are posted. Make sure you click the Show More link down below the video to find additional resources and links. You'll see a list of other videos, additional information related to the current topic, free lessons, and lots more. YouTube no longer sends out email notifications when new videos are posted, so if you'd like to get an email every time I post a video, click on the link to join my mailing list. Even if you don't want to become a member, feel free to donate to my tip jar. Your patronage is greatly appreciated and will help keep these free videos coming. I got puppies to feed. Now, if you have not yet tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access. It's over 4 hours long, and I just updated it for 2021. You can find it on my website or on my YouTube channel. I'll include a link below that you can click on. And also, if you like Level 1, Level 2 is just $1. Yep, that's all, $1, and it's free for all members of my YouTube channel at any level, even supporters. Want to have your question answered in a video just like this one? Visit my tech help page on my website. You can send me your question there. While you're on my site, feel free to stop by the Access Forum. Lots of good conversations happening there. Be sure to follow my blog, find me on Twitter, and of course, YouTube. Once again, my name is Richard Ross. Thank you for watching this Tech Help video brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something today. I'll see you again soon.